no shayla. It's 100% mezaitis.
And what shayla on the meat?
Clean it, berekelach. If it was psachosh of a piece, but that
others
No.
take a piece of barley, make a lasagna, take a bean, and make a gum.
Maybe when it's watery. I can't imagine this. What can the suffix is there?
But let's say you have an eighth of it. Sometimes it's more
Makes no difference.
Not
Because
the barley overrides everything.
That can be first 9 days. So
Okay.
you eat them all.
The Trump is great. Let's learn. Let's see if we can learn the Tanya as good as the Trump. We're holding in Iggeres HaTeshuvah Perek Daled. And there's so much to talk about. It's like the night before Yom Kippur. Wouldn't be a better time to learn Iggeres HaTeshuvah. On the one hand, the Alter Rebbe makes Tshuva so much more accessible, so much more easy. The Alter Rebbe's Chiddush that we were just learning in the first 3 Prokim, and what's the Etzem Inyan of Mitzvah's Tshuva versus to what's the cream around the Tshuva, the Inyan Tshuva. And on the other hand, but the Alter Rebbe makes it, even though the Alter Rebbe makes it easier, but the Alter Rebbe also, on the other hand, makes it something that's very much soul-searching. There's a view in Nifla about the Rebbe. I just spoke a snippet of it by Bashir on Tuesday night about Rabbi Shimon and Belazar. They used to keep a ledger to write down their Avedas, come to the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah, I don't know if we'll get a chance to get there tonight. If not, we'll do it another night. But definitely, we should read a little bit in the Iggeres HaTeshuvah before we talk about any biyurim. We're on the page 186, Perek Daled, 4 lines from the bottom. And the Bemis, everything that we spoke till now, even though there was a lot of chidushim from the Alter Rebbe, and like I said, hopefully we'll have some time tonight or another night to talk about how astounding these chidushim are, but that's still just an introduction to what we're starting tonight. Tonight is really where we're starting Acho Inyan. Acho Inyan is, let's understand the Inyan. Acho Inyan, who, Yuvan, to really understand this idea of tshuva will be understood of this that is written in this week's parsha. It's mid, but it says before that that the world, the Eibishter made that there should be an existence for humanity. Why? That the Eibishter a few times was like thinking, oh, maybe I'll just wipe them all out. But the reason why the Eibishter didn't wipe them out, Rashi says, because that the Jewish people were still among the nations, and the Eibishter wanted that Adam should survive, Noah should survive, and they should all survive, and the purpose was that the Jewish people should come out of it. And the Pasuk says, the reason why the Eibishter made that Yatzav Vulas Amr Lamispar B'nai Yisrael, why did he make that the Goyim, the nations, the world should stand, is Lamispa B'nai Yisrael, because the Jews were going to come out of it. For what reason? And why does the Eibishter care about the Jews? The Pasuk says the Eibishter cares about the Jews. Ki chelak Hashem amei, because the Jewish people are chelak Hashem. The Rebbe says chelak mishem Yudkei Vavkei Baruchu. They are chelak of Yudkei Vavkei K'Teksiv, as it says in the Pasuk. Vayipach ba'apav nishma chayim. Pasuk says that Adam Rishon, the Eibishter blew into his nostrils a neshama of life. And the Zoya says that what's the diuk in the pasuk? The Eibishter blew into his nostrils a spirit of life. The Zoya says that the Zoya says, what's the difference of speaking and blowing? You could speak for an hour and not get so tired, but you can't blow for an hour. If you blow, after you blow for 30 seconds, you run out of air. So therefore, the Torah says "Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim" to tell you that everything the Eibishter created in the world was from Vayomer Elokim. Asar ma'imoros nivroel. But there's one thing the Eibishter created different than anything in the world, and that was the neshama of a Jew. For that was Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim. She'ein lo idmut saguf v'chulu.
That's similar to the Sefer. You have to blow in order to take out
the Sefer, you
have to blow from the inside.
Exactly. And you feel it.
Called pnimi.
And you feel it. even though that as the Rishonim said, Ein lo musaguf. The Eibishter chas v'shalom say that the Eibishter has a comparison to human body, which is the human being when he blows gets exhausted, and when he speaks, he can speak for an hour straight. Chazal tell us that the Torah uses the language of men. It's, in other words, metaphorically speaking, that the Eibishter wants that we should understand through metaphor the idea of the Torah. We just started. It's at Perek Daled, the page 186. 186, and it's actually page Sadik Daled. Sadik Daled, top line. Taloshim Bnei Adam, period. Just like there is a huge difference by a person in this world, al derech mashal, ben hevel sheyoytze mipiv b'diburoi, through the blowing that's coming out, the ear that's coming out of his mouth through speaking, lahevel, through the ear, ayoytze eden eficha, that goes out of his mouth through blowing, that the ear that goes out through speech, that there is a little bit of chayes in it. It's only from the crust, from the external part of the living soul. That's why he doesn't get exhausted. He could talk for hours and hours and hours, and he's not getting exhausted. But the energy that goes out when he's blowing, so because it's not chitzonius, it's pnimius. It's so therefore he gets exhausted. Because that's what the Zohar says, it's from the inside. It's not from the external, it's from the pnimius, from the inner and of the inner. There's the chayis pnimi, not the chayis chitzoni. Therefore, the person gets exhausted. And this is a metaphor to understand Mavdil, Avdolas Lain Kates, for many, many different levels of Avdolas, but it's still a metaphor for us to understand and the difference of the Neshama and everything that was created in this world. Now, today we'll go into give an example of Neshama, the difference of Neshama and Malachim. Why? Because the Malachim are the most exalted in this world, and even the Malachim, which are most exalted, the Neshamas are much greater than them. Yesh Hefresh, Otzim Yored Lamaila, Ben Kol Tzva Shamayim. Afila HaMalachim Shenivru Me'ayin Liyesh. They were created from nothing to something. They live from Chitzonius Achayis. There is an energy, a godly energy that makes them live, but it's superficial, it's from the external. It's from
You just said what became to Odom, you didn't say Odom.
That's good, it's good. We'll have to.
What's the difference? Why here you have to blow to make Odom, and by Malach you say Malach?
You see that by a neshama, it's made.
There was no life in Allah.
I want to get to the minute about the malach. I just want to read a few lines inside. So yes, Hefres Otzamoid Lamaila and Kol Tzva Shamayim Afila Malachim. It's on page Sadik Daled, like 10 lines from the top. Yes, Hefresh Otzamoid. There's a huge difference. Lamaila. Ben Kol Tzva Shamayim, between all those that are created in heaven, even the angels that were created from Aim Liyesh, they're also a creation from Aim Liyesh. Their life and their sustenance, and it says only from the external of the Chayes. It's only from the external of the energy. It's only a ruach, al derech mashal. Oh, Kamash Kosav, as the pasuk says, "Beruach piv kol tzvam." That's why the pasuk says that he created only beruach piv, which is through dibur. This is the energy that comes down later in the asarim amoris. Sheim b'chinas kelim v'amshachas Kamash Kosav l'kutem amorim chelek beis perik yudalef, which over there he says that just like there is a light in vessels, the same thing. A person has a thought. The thought is the light, and the oisius you use are the vessels. So there is the ruach. Hilu, there is when a person speaks or he blows, always there's a ruach. There's an energy that's coming out of the chest. It's just sometimes he's blowing and sometimes he's speaking. So there is kilu, the oir, the chayis, and then it's coming through 5 articulators, and that's the oisius. The oisius are the kalim. So everything, including the malachim, are created in that process, and they are different So it's a difference between them, nishmas adam and the neshama of a person, that originates from the pnimius achayis, not the chitzonius achayis, from the pnimius achayis v'ashefa shemashpein tzabarach u'kumeshkos v'yipach ba'apach v'achach yorda b'sefer magdreges. Later it goes down in from one level to a lower level, and what's called Seiser Madreges, Gamken, Adeptinis Oisis, because also a human being was created through Oisis. In order to come into this world. So true, the human being also ends up being created through the Oisis, but a Jew originates from Yud Kei Vav Kei, Mashenkein, as opposed to everything in this world, including the angels that originate from Shem Elokim. So the neshama comes from the pnimius achayis, from Yud Kei Vav Kei, and everything in this world from chitzonius achayis, Shem Elokim. That's why the angels are called Elokim. So what is the pshat? It almost, you get a rash when you read that he's the God of the gods. What's the pshat? The pshat is because the angels, when the angel speaks to Hagar, for example, the angel is nothing. The angel says, "I will come." Shoiv Osher talk to Avram Avinu, the angel. He's a puppet. Shoiv Osher ve'lecha. Actually says, "B'shluchus shamakim." I'm coming back. I'm coming back. He's not coming back, but he's just the puppet. So the puppeteer is the one that's really talking. The puppet is not talking. So the Eibishter, he says, Hashem Elokeichem, the Eibishter of the Jewish people is Elokei Elokim. He is the Eibishter of all the angels, because the angels, when they're doing the shlichus, so they're bottle, so they're called B'Shem Elokim. And then there's another pasuk. Hoidu, we praise who? The Eibishter, Elokei Elokim. And then there's another pasuk, which is the first Perek in EU. It says, "Vayhi hayom vayavoyu b'nei Elokim lisyatzev lifnei Elokim vayave gam asoten b'toichem." It says it was Rosh Hashanah, and the angels all came, and everyone is doing their job, and the Satan is also doing his job. And Abishah says to the Satan, "You see, my good friend Eve, he's such a great guy, and he serves me." And the Satan starts saying, "Oh yeah, he's a great guy, because you give him all the good, but try him out, and you'll see." And that sets off the whole story of Eve. Okay, so the story of Eve came up a little in the news lately, because the mayor of the city of New York came out with an announcement that he is Eve number 2.
Yeah.
So
Feel bad, man.
yeah, you feel bad.
Yeah.
So I think
After you got caught.
yeah. So, I don't know what I just heard a snippet for 30 seconds, and I chuckled because the guy in the gas basically is Eve. Apparently, this guy learns a little bit of Tanakh. Who knows about Eve? So this guy must be going. He must be going as preacher, and I had this loving Eve, and he decided that he is Eve number 2. Anyway,
Trump is number 1.
Oh yeah,
You persecuted more.
Oh okay. So here's the 3 psukim.
What's a Seiser Madrega?
What says in the Madrega?
Why is it?
Talk about it in a minute. Okay. I want to stop here for a second, and then we'll talk about a couple of the things that people asked, and talk about a Vira Nifla from the Rebbe. I'm just using it as a springboard to get into understanding what's going on over here in the Iggeres HaTeshuvah. But whatever I'm going to say now is not my own toitus. This is a Vira Nifla from the Rebbe in this Perek. Yesterday was Rav Tishrei. I'm sorry. The day before was the Yortzeit, 60th Yortzeit, the Rebbe's mother. The Rebbe always said that his mother had a big schus. She learned how to make ink. That her husband was able to write a little bit of his Chidusha Torah, B'Sof Yomav, and that's the only thing we have. The Rebbe had a big chavivus to it. The Rebbe said that his father wrote, he brought a raya. Why did the Alter Rebbe have to bring 3 psukim about Malachim being called B'Shem Elokim? What's wrong with one pasuk? So he said because of 3 psukim, because there is 3 types of angels. 3 types of angels. If you learn the Rambam, he said the Torah says there's 10 types of angels. Okay, but Chassidus, it is true. There's 10 types of angels, but they line up in Chassidus. There's three Pikabola. The Pardes in the Ramak says Misa Malach Batzilus. There's no angels. They don't run around in Atzilus. They don't exist. Atzilus is only godliness, mamish, and there's no angels. There's no other identity. When the Olam Abriya starts angels, there's a Briya Tzira Asiyah, and there is angels. So for the angels in the Olam Abriya, there's the first pasuk, Olam Yitzira, and the Olam Asiya. That's the three psukim. So the Rebbe asked, what's his father? Okay, Sean. So and why is the Alter Rebbe? And now that we know that the three psukim for the three types of malachim, how am I going to do better tshuva? How am I going to be a better human being this year? And it comes Yom Kippur, and I learned Tanya Thursday night. How am I going to be a better person? Because I know there's three types of malachim, B'ri, Yitzia, and Asiya. Besides, the Rebbe asked the Pashta Shaila. The Alter Rebbe is trying to do one thing, and he's doing exactly the other thing. He's trying to tell us how the neshama is much greater than angels. But then he's really doing the other way around. He's bringing three psukim that angels are called Shem, they're called Elikim. When the angel says, Shoiv Oshev Eilecha, I'm going to return to you. He's talking Hashem's puppet. But a human being is not that way. By Jews, we say, Asidim Yisrael, Sheyikra, Shmei Kodesh Baruch Hu, Mashiach will come. The Mashal says it's only Shem Levi, and even that, it's only when Mashiach is going to come. So you're trying to tell me that the Jews, Neshamas Yisrael, are greater, but then you're really bringing me three psukim to say that the angels are greater. So what are you trying to do over here? Aren't you trying to tell me how the Neshamas are greater? So this is the Nakuda of the Rebbe's question. The Rebbe has a pure nifla. The Nakuda of the Rebbe's answer is this. What makes a Jew greater? Why are the Jews greater? Why are the Jews greater?
Greater than what?
They're greater than the angels even. The Jewish people. I'm going to say now humans, I mean the Jews. Atem Kruim Odom. In the context of what we're learning tonight. I'm not making statements.
Malach doesn't have a neshama?
So what? So here's the
higher world.
So what's the Maila of Neshamas Yisrael over all human beings and Malach? So everything that comes from Yud Kei Vav Kei, everything comes from the Eibishter. We're saying that once it was created, you don't say the Yud Kei Vav Kei. You see Shem Elokim, as all the Chachmei Kabbalah said that the Gematria of Elokim is Hateva. You don't see the Eibishter, you see the nature. So what's the mile of the Jewish people? One might say that you see this year is Tov Shem Pei Hey Shnas Hashgocha Protes, and we stake that is brought in Sifrei Mechkar that the Hashgocha Protes of a Jew is much more in a spectacular way. What does it mean? So the Baal Shem Tov says that there's Hashgocha Protes even on a blade of grass. So the idea is because the Hashgocha Protes by a Jew is more begilui. That by a Jew it's begilui the Hashgocha Protes. So today there was in the news, for example, that there was a missile that came flying from Lebanon. It came into Tzfas, into a Jewish home, and it landed in the bedroom, in a crib. See, it's shocking. You see a video, pictures of it, and it landed in the crib of a baby, and the family was not home right then. The family was not home right then when the missile landed. It turns out that we're finding out now that the plans that Hamas had and the Hezbollah had, that the Hamas was child's play compared to what the Rahman al-Islam, the Hezbollah had in mind for what they wanted to do in the north. And the little guys jumped the gun, and because they saw this Nova Festival happening, so they couldn't hold themselves in. So the cat that saw the canary, it's like it couldn't. So they ruined the whole thing. But really, we're finding out that Rahman al-Islam, that they had whatever we know, Rahman al-Islam, the unbelievable pain that happened, that they had much worse plans, and the whole world is against us, and we're seeing such unbelievable miracles. Dafka in the last 3 weeks, we're seeing incredible miracles. We're seeing Israel every day, as we're talking right now. Every day, Israel is advancing. They've already conquered north of the Litani River. There was
I remember when they never had a fit.
One second.
Domestic.
Well, we know that. So what happened was that they said in the last round when Israel was going into Lebanon, there was a village that Israel took yesterday. It took them. They said 8 days, and Rahman al-Islam, they lost 16 soldiers, and they took it over in 2 hours. They took it out yesterday or the day before. It's unbelievable. There's no cameraman, there's no videos, there's no pictures. Cures, and it's remarkable what's happening now. Nisim Gluyim are happening. They say that Israel already managed to destroy so much of the arsenal of the Hezbollah. They have today what Hamas had Simchas Torah a year ago, which is remarkably less. Like they said, that they destroyed so much.
What about
that
all the tunnels? All the tunnels?
yesterday they reported that there was a tunnel that's already going 10 meters into Israel. That Israel, and that they destroyed it.
But
We're seeing Nissim
hundreds of
Gluyim.
tunnels, aren't they?
Okay, well, we're seeing Nissim. So what a person was going to say, person's going to say like this: that the Yidden are kifsach as ben shivim zevim. So you see the Ashgacha protest, the Eibush has with Jewish people. So that's a gilei lekus. The pasuk says. If you look up to the sky, why do you have to look in the sky to see? You could look on this world, and you could see. It's true, you could look in the world, but in the sky, it's more begolui. So, and in the angels, it's even more begolui. You see that there's no bigger godly revelation than you see the miracles that are happening to Jewish people. There's another aspect that's coming up in the past year. A remarkable thing that's my wife is showing me tonight. A soldier that Nebuch was injured so badly in Gaza that they didn't think that he would survive, and he went through. His name was Nachal Kaplan. Yesterday, he took a video. He posted it 2 days ago. That he had multiple surgeries, and he came out alive. And he's standing on 2 feet, and he's putting up a mezuzah in his apartment, and he's making a bracha goimel and shechiyonu and bracha and kviyas and mezuzah. It's remarkable, the unbelievable. He's oididus. What happened was, if you look, there is a in the last issue, I think it's in the Ami magazine at the end. Remarkable story. A woman that she said she was a secretary of one of the kibbutzim, and she describes how what went on in Yom Kippur Rahman al-Islam there for the past couple of years. It's terrible. I don't want to say what. And now she says she's religious. She's religious, and there was a younger man that tried to make a little bit of he said that we're going to have a football game between a team of yeshiva kids, and she said, no, I stood out there with a whole bunch of we didn't let them come in. We don't want yeshiva kids in our. And now all of a sudden she's religious. She was religious, and she explains that she was Rahman al-Islam in the tunnels, and she was captive, and so she said, I know you guys. I was helping you guys. I was one of the biggest peace activists. So they said, no. You're a European colonialist. So she said, no, I am Jewish. She started screaming, Shema Yisrael. She was screaming so much that they duct taped her. Then they took off the duct tape and said, you're Jewish? Read for us the Aseret Hadibros. I didn't know the Aseret Hadibros. So they said to her, what kind of Jew are you? You don't know the Aseret Hadibros? So she decided that if she goes out alive, she wants to know the Aseret Hadibros. This woman, she has a daughter-in-law. She's doing a Soidus tour with a lot of Chabad houses around America. Her daughter-in-law is Sapir Cohen. She was a girl that was one of the first groups that were released. She's 30 years old. Nebuch. She was there for a few months. She came out weighing about 80 pounds or something, less 75 pounds, and she said, "This woman, her daughter-in-law, Sapir Cohen." So she was at a Chabad event, and she said that she was sick in the summer, and she went to the doctors, and they found she had an infection. But that was the whole. She had such a bad feeling, and it was only about infection, antibiotics. She saw an advertisement that you should say the David Hashem Oidi, the Kapitel Tehillim. For some reason, it went into her head that if you say for 30 days the David Hashem Oidi V'ishi, that she's going to be healed. Someone said something. It went into her head. So she said, even though she's not religious, she never knew anything about religion. Every day she opened the Tehillim and she said, "La David Hashem oidi v'ishi." And the 30th day is she was with her boyfriend. She was not kind of. Her boyfriend passed her very strongly to come to their kibbutz. I think it was kibbutz Bari, and she went. And Nabachi is still in captivity. So what happened was she said that she was in captivity, and there was a girl there, 16-year-old girl, who was terrified. And she decided that she's going to take care of this girl. Said that what happened was that she realized that when she took care of this girl, instead of having fear, all of a sudden she turned her fear into compassion to help this girl. She said every day she started her day by saying LaDavid, but she knew, she said it was remarkable. After saying it a month, I knew it by heart, every word. But me and you have been saying it for 50 years. Some of you are saying it 45 years, 39 years. I'm not sure. I know when my wife was telling me the story, I said, I'm not sure. I know the David Hashem Oidi. She said it for 30 days. She said it as Mila B'Mila Ois B'Ois, and she knew it by heart. Every morning she started off by saying David Hashem Oidi. And she said, she realized she was wondering, how is this Mimi Ida, Mimi Efchat, for whom I scared, that my enemies are coming to ravage, to eat up my flesh. What does that have to do with healing? How is that a segula to be healed? And she realized that it was from heaven, that she knew this kapitel by heart. And she said that her mother prepared that at 24 hours they should say Tehillim for her until she went out of captivity. And she said that every day she felt the David Hashem Oiri V'ishi, that the Eibush is my light. She felt surrounded by a light. So
She was scared.
it's unbelievably. And she said that after a month being in some attic, they fed them every day a pita. So they decided to take them to the Rahman al-Islam, to the infamous tunnels. And this girl, the 16-year-old girl, felt that she's not going to make it. So she said, she said, I convinced the girl, you're ready in Gaza. The main attraction for Gaza is the tunnels. How can we miss the main attraction? So it's remarkable that a Nebuch, a person who is starving. You think about, how you feel before Ne'ilah, and this is 3 months, Rahman al-Islam, that pain must be unbelievable. And they're not getting a drop of sunlight. Now they know that they're going into the tunnels, Rahman al-Islam. And instead of as a human being, a normal human being would be a yida and effort, would have an unbelievable fear. It's unbelievable to think what kind of fear it is. Any tunnel is fear, but such a dark tunnel. And instead of feeling fear, she feels energy to make a joke and to make it light, to give energy to a kid, to a 16-year-old kid that she took under her wing. She now lights Shabbos candles. So what do we see from this? And we see that it's unbelievable. The Jewish soul, it's unbelievable. It's remarkable. One of the things she said in that event was that terrorists were watching. There was a huge protest of Achdus, right after Simchas Torah that happened somewhere in Tel Aviv. And the terrorists said, if this is going to continue, you guys are going to win and we're going to lose. That's like funny that the terrorists would say such a thing. As you see, it's shining. It's shining. Do you remember last year, right after Simchas Torah, there was a boy, his name was Ariel Zohar. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that there was a kid, Rahman al-Islam, he went out Simchas Torah morning for a jog. And then he heard what was happening. So he ran into the first house in Nachal Oz, and that's where the guard was. So the guard locked him into the safe room, and the guard himself went out to face the terrorists. The guard didn't make it. And Rahman al-Islam's entire family, his father's mother, sister, everyone was slaughtered by Rahman al-Islam. And when he emerged, so it was still under the Nachal Oz was still under fire. The people of Zaka were there to rescue him. So he asked them that he is about to become bar mitzvah. So he wants that they should go into the house and get the film. But they were under fire. So the protocol really would say that they were not allowed to go back to his house to get his film. But they decided to go back to the house. And
That's not the feeling that is Zeta that he
Right.
wrote to survive. That's
right, and he said
That was
that
that
they
was
should.
important.
The Zaka said they needed to shoot back fire to get into the house, and the house was already on fire. They got his film, and they brought it to his grandfather. He was then, but his grandfather initially see him. Turned out his grandfather was a survivor. Said that he had a similar thing. His parents were killed in front of his eyes, and he couldn't. And then now his grandfather says that his grandson is experiencing the same thing. The only request the kid had was for a spirit film, not a religious family living in a kibbutz like this. His father was the story was printed in several places. I looked up the story today because I wanted to tell the story tonight. It was fascinating. His father was a photographer for Yisrael Hayom, where incidentally I looked up the story. Yeah, Israeli newspaper. So he was Nabal. Hashem Yinkum Dameh. So we see that Mika Amcha Yisrael. It's remarkable. So a person is going to say that how is a Jew distinguished? What makes a Yid special? The Yiddish neshama, the strength of character that was shown by people like Sapir Cohen or Ariel Zohar is something unique. You don't see it in the 70 nations of the world. The protection, the Hashgacha Pratis that we see, and the miracles that we see, the Gilui Lakus that we see in the Jewish soul, the Gilui Lakus through the miracles is something unique. And although this is true, Zok the Rebbe, that this is what the Alter Rebbe is trying to come and tell you here in Perek Tanya and Perek Daled, although this is true, that the Yidden stand apart and you see Gilui Lakus through the Hashgacha Pratis. Although the Yidden stand apart and you see Gilui Lakus through the character of the beauty of a Jewish soul, and you see it in a 30-year-old girl who knows nothing about Yiddishkeit and she starts saying a kapitel Tehillim, or a boy who knows very little about Yiddishkeit, but he knows he has a Pirat film and he wants his Pirat film in Mesilas Nefesh. But don't tell me that is really the uniqueness of a Jewish person. Why? If you're talking about Helam V'Gilu, if you're talking about a revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei, revelation of godliness, Malachim are much greater. Malachim are much greater because a Malach, there's 3 dagas of Malachim, and in every daga of a Malach, there's a more Gilu. There's 3 levels of Malachim. Why? Because there's Bri Yitzir Asiyah. It's explained in Chassidus that where does creation start? The Ramban talks about it at the beginning of Parshas Bereishis. Bereishis Bor Elokim. Bria starts from the Olam HaBriya. As I mentioned before, the Pardes of the Ramak says, Nisa Malach Ba'atzilus. Malachim don't exist in Atzilus. There's no. But in Bria starts, Chassidus says that Bria, Yitzir and Asiyah gives a mashal. That just like a person thinks, there is Oisis HaMachshava, there's Oisis HaDibur and Oisis HaMais. It means it's all in my head. There's a thought. I don't even have yet Oisis. I'm just thinking. Then there is, I'm thinking how I'm going to explain it. And then, there's Oisis. I'm thinking the shape of a letter. I'm not thinking about how I'll explain it. I'm a graphic designer. Here comes to that. I'm a graphic designer, and I'm thinking of the Oisis. So I could think Oisis in my mind, Oisis HaMachshava, Oisis HaDibur, and Oisis HaMaisa. So the angels, that's why in the first pasuk, the pasuk says 3 times Elokim, because it's the highest level of Malachim, it's the highest level of angels. We're talking about the angels in the world of Bria, which is within Oisis HaMachshava, there is already Oisis HaDibur and Oisis HaMaisa. The second pasuk is talking about the angels in the world of Yitzira. There is no Oisis HaMachshava over there. They only have the second and third level. That's what it says 2 times Shem Elokim. The third pasuk is Vayavoyu B'nei Elokim. Over here, angels in the story of Eov, especially we have that nasty Sultan that's come along together with a couple American politicians that are coming along. So they're not called Elokim, they're called B'nei Elokim. So in the highest level, there is triple Elokim. The lower level is double Elokim, and the lowest level is Elokim, and that itself, it's B'nei Elokim. So we're saying in the angels, there is incredible. An angel speaks, he's a puppet. He's talking as if he's Hashem's mouth. It's remarkable. Why? Because he's so bottled that he could talk as if he's the Eibishter. But on the flip side, even though he talks in the Eibishter's name, he's only Elikim. And within the angel's goof itself, when you talk in the second level, they only have the second and third. And the lowest level only has a gili of one Elikim. Second one has twice. The third is three. But even the highest level only has 3 times Elikim. But nothing more. Nothing more. But the neshama, the uniqueness of neshama is even when the neshama is in this world, it's chelek mishem avai. And that Rebbe says that's a diuk niflo. When the Alter Rebbe starts, he says, "Ach inyan yuven al pi ma shekosav ki chelek Hashem amar." Why is the Alter Rebbe adding the word "ki"? Because that's the key of what he wants to say. The pasuk says earlier, "Yatzav gvulas amim lamisper b'nei Yisrael," that the Eibishter made that the 70 nations of the world should exist in order for the Jews. Why? He chelek Hashem amar. Rashi says that the Jews were when all the nation was around. The neshama of the Jews and the non-Jews were mixed into one. So the Eibishter wanted that eventually the Jews should separate. So that's why the Eibishter made there should be a miracle and there should be a survival for the 10 generations, the other 10 generations for Noach. So we see that even the way the world is in a physical form, the way the Jews are among the 70 nations, still they are called Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. So don't tell me that the uniqueness of the Jew is the Gilui, is the revelation. It's true. In the Jew we see a revelation of miracles. In the Jew we see a revelation of unique type of people, tender souls that have Rachmanas, Bashanas, Agam Lechasod. True. But that's not the uniqueness, because if you're going to tell me the uniqueness is the Gilui, so Malachim have more Gilui. The difference is Be'etzam, that angels are only Elikim, and neshama, even in this world, even the way the neshama comes in this world, it's chelik from Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And this is very important to understand the whole idea of tshuva. First of all, on the simplest level, tshuva means you want to return. Return to where? Where to return to? It was the GPS was something that came and went. It was here for a very short time. But, Avraham Fried, who's a terrific singer, thought that he'd make a song. It was only relevant for, a year or two when GPS was around. But it was a very cute thing. His point was that you could drive today, you can go wherever you want. You can go wherever you want. You don't have to know roads. When, I still know roads in the Bronx. You tell me how to get from here to there, Bronx. I have no idea. You do it with GPS. I don't know. You just put in the address and you get there. But you need to know the address. Without knowing the address, you can't get there. You have to know the address. Without the address, how are you going to get there? So Yid has to know Tzuva. We're returning we are. Furthermore, a person says that an Aveda makes a pagam. Pagam in what? So you have to understand what's the neshama. That really, the only a neshama is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. So therefore, only a neshama is capable of making a pagam in the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei of Hashem's name, and only a Jew is capable of returning to do tshuva, toshuv hey. Click in the lower hey, click in the higher hey, Yud hey, Vav hey. We said that the Zohar says tshuva tatos to click in the lower hey, tshuvilos to click in the higher hey. So it's very important to understand where am I returning to. And what's the consequences of my actions if they're good, or chas v'shalom, the opposite of good? So therefore, this was. So the Alter Rebbe wants to say that the truth, the uniqueness of the Jewish people is on many levels, but the ikar uniqueness of the Jewish people is not in the gilui of hashgacha pratis, in the uniqueness of the Jewish soul, but rather in the fact that a Yid is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and even the highest level of Malachim, which has 3 times Elikim, but they don't have Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Sakolchke. The lowest second level of Malachim should only have two times Elikim, don't even have 3. They don't have Yud-Kei Vav-Kei as part of them. But by a Jew, a Yid is a chelik of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, even the way he's in this world, and even if he's sinning, and even though the worst of sins, doesn't matter. A Yid has Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and it's part of his DNA, it's part of what he is. Let's continue a few more lines.
What's the Avram Fried thing?
Oh, it's on the GPS.
Recalculate.
Oh, recalculate. Yeah.
The last song. In that.
Recalculate. Yes, recalculate. So the part of his, I think part of his song was that you got to know the address. If you don't know the address, how are you going to get there?
Too late.
Huh?
Yeah, never too late.
Never too late. But you got to know the address, right? Isn't that part of
Something
that?
like that.
If it's not there, you can put it in. But it's true. You need to know the address.
So
Fi-
Rabbi Yami Klein when he went to a taxi. So where are you going? It's a money business.
Aval, לפי שניק, chayusam of the angels, he מבחינת חיצוניש, מבחינת Isis levat, because their chayus is only from the chitzonius of Elikus, which is only from Isis, Hashem Elikim, מבחינת chitzonius, legabi Shem Yud Kevavke Baruch Hu. Shem Elikim compared to Yud Kevavke, chitzonius, the pnimius, it's the crust. It's the superficial. Aval nish, the superficial revelation of the Eibishter. Aval nishmas adam shem ebchinis pnimius achayis. See, chelak meshem yud kevavke. Kishem yud kevavke moed al pnimius achayis. Shelamayla mayla mebchinis oisis. And that's what a neshama is all about. So this is critical to understand. It's because I have to understand who I am. If I, on a very simple level, if a person feels that the actions are not consequential, they're not so important. Zal said, why? Because if a person realizes that there is a lot, there's a lot that my neshama is very unique. So therefore, Al Rebbe wants to say that the main mile of the Yid is not so much in the idea of Gilui. True, there is tremendous Gilui, miracles, Hashgacha Pratis. You see, just like looking in the heaven is more than looking in the earth. You look at the Jewish people and the existence of the past 2,000 years. You see Yad Hashem, you see Hashgacha Pratis, you see the people in the past 12 months. You see the unbelievable uniqueness of a Yiddish soul. Rachmanim Bashanim Begem Lachasadim. But the real uniqueness of a Yid is Yud Kei Vav Kei. So I want to finish off with the beautiful word that Shmuel showed yesterday, because I just think it's beautiful. So the Mendel Futafas Ayid, he was for 8 years in the Russian gulags. He was imprisoned for a while, and finally there was a special deal with the State Department and the Russians. It was a swap with a couple of prisoners. Nothing changes. Wow. So what happened was finally in 1966 he came out of Russia. He was in Israel for a short time, and finally he came to the Rebbe. When he came out of Yechidus, apparently the Rebbe told him to fabreng with the Talmidei Yeshiva. He came into the base medrash and he sat down to fabreng. So he asked the guys, "No, tell me, how do you make a cheshbon nefesh? Trish Meshalamita supposed to make a cheshbon nefesh."
He's the one 20-some years ago.
No, that's Leizer Nanas. Leizer Nanas wasn't a mashpia. Zeh from a yid. The Mendel was a fire. He was a fabringer. So he was a walking fabringer. Right. He was like, didn't skip a beat. So the no, nothing. He didn't skip a beat. He was like, they ever sent him a shlichus. He was right away. He never even went. His wife lived for 20 years without him. They never sent him a shlichus to Israel. Eventually they met up. It was like, he was like,
even when Israel came to Israel, he was in Yeshiva. He didn't went home.
Yeah.
He went home just to say Keshem Shalamita, and he went back to sleep in Yeshiva.
Yes. So he goes to a Bachrim. He just came out of Russia. The Rebbe tells him to fabreng. He says, "No, tell me, how do you make cheshbon nefesh at night? Yom Kippur to make cheshbon nefesh." So the Bachrim are quiet. Tell us. So he said, "Yeah, you have to go through everything you did throughout the day, throughout the year, the good and the not so good." Remember, we met this Arab. I had such an Arab way of thinking. The good, the bad, and the ugly. That's how I go the good, the bad, and the ugly. So
It's a movie.
Huh?
It's a movie.
Oh, okay, fine.
That's what he's saying.
Oh, that's how he's saying it. Okay, fine. It's a cliche.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he became part of the lecture.
Oh, became part of it. Okay, so anyway, so it's up to the Mendel that the person has to go through. So Malcolm said, yeah. So there, the person revisits all the schmutz in his mind. That's what cheshbon nefesh is. I'll tell you what cheshbon nefesh is. Person thinks about all the kindness the Eibishter did to me, all the miracles, the things that I didn't deserve. so much good. The whole Yom Kippur, a person thinks about, wow, he's floating in the air, thanking the Eibusha for the chasadim. At the end of the day, he says, hey, wait a minute, what did I do for that Emunah Shalom? Person has an unbelievable excited is that this year, he should pay a little attention to his neshama, and that the neshama came into this world with a mission to do something. If all the miracles the Eibusha made for me, I want to do something for the Eibusha. I want to do something to satisfy my neshama. So the Eibusha help in going into this Yom Kippur. It's a special day. It's Tzuma Shel Yom HaChaper, and we said in the beginning that even tougher sins get wiped away. Wiped away. So we have to have a Emunah Shlema that that's really how it is, and that after Yom Kippur we're a couple of pounds lighter, and everything. It's a totally new slate. You have to really believe in it and know that the tshuva is really close at hand. That through the tshuva, the Eibusha should bring Gula La'olam, the Gula Mitzvah Shlema for Mashiach Tzidkeinu. We will continue this right after Sukkot.
One of the ladies. The house, the wife goes in the living room. She's old and husband. They took us out to a hall and put her in the car. And she was speaking Arabic. She said, before you kill me, I'll take a chunk for you. I know you guys want your video. She made chunk for them. Meanwhile, she's heading to someone's a policeman. How many people are there? What they have? What they have? And she's giving them and she's taking care of it. And then after you finish it's a policeman. It's outside which is outside. But somehow, and she's still on the couch and she's feeding them. That moment, the son came for this, should the manager should that was so she came outside and it says, I want all the women and the whole world women should light Shabbos candles. It's very, very important. She came from the way last week.
Yeah.
But the she's saying again, look, because of you I survived. I'm announcing, so 50 years of Shabbos candles. Again, I want all the women on the world like Scott, talk to them. Please, Hashem, light Shabbos candles. When you say new styles,
Unbelievable.
Yeah.